The rain has ended. Yet its memory lingers upon the earth like a deep breath after sorrow. In the mountain monastery, the scent of wet pine and incense mixes with the stillness of absence. Anna walks through the courtyard where his teacher once stood, each footstep soft against the soaked earth. The world feels too wide now, too hollow. He stops before the temple door, the same door that once opened to laughter and the sound of prayer. Now only silence greets him. He lowers his head, hearing faint drops fall from the eaves, like the slow heartbeat of grief. The narrator's voice rises, calm, compassionate, reminding him that even sadness is impermanent. The clouds have wept, the wind has carried their tears, and yet the sky remains untouched. So too, says the Buddha, does the heart hold sorrow without being broken by it. More trains so we can manage through the courtyard remembers every sound. Laughter, chanting, the footsteps of students rushing to morning prayer. Ina walks its length now alone. His teacher's voice, once as steady as the temple bell, echoes faintly in memory. He feels the weight of loss as if it were a robe soaked with rain. Yet even as sadness deepens, something within him begins to listen. The narrator's voice reminds, pain is a visitor. Offer it tea and watch it leave. He sits by the stone lantern where moss grows thick, listen to raindrops sliding from leaves. The silence between them is vast, yet not empty. In that stillness, sorrow begins to soften, not vanish, but breathe. Villagers approach quietly, their sandals brushing against gravel paths. Each carries small offerings, lotus blossoms, rice, and candles wrapped in paper. They bow at the gate where Master Ryo's portrait hangs. Anna watches from a distance, unsure whether to join or hide. Grief, he realizes, is both love and fear woven together. The narrator whispers, attachment makes the heart tremble, yet it also reveals how deeply we have loved. One elderly woman begins to weep, her tears mingling with morning dew. Ina steps forward at last, bowing low. He feels the pulse of compassion rise within him, gentle as the returning sun. Within the meditation hall, Ina sits before the empty mat where Master Ryo once taught. The mat still bears faint impressions of the elder's form. Ina closes his eyes, attempting to follow his breath, but grief rushes in like returning waves. He remembers the old man's voice. The body passes, the teaching remains, yet the silence feels heavier than truth. His breath breaks, shoulders shaking slightly. The narrator's tone softens. Do not fight the storm. Become the sky that holds it. Gradually, his breathing steadies. In the dim light of the hall, dust particles drift like small universes. Time stretches, grief turning into awareness. Night falls. Crickets sing outside, blending with distant thunder. Ina lies upon his mat, eyes open, staring at the ceiling beams. Between waking and dreaming, he hears his teacher's laughter. Faint, like wind through bamboo. Why do you cling to what must move? The voice says. Ina sits upright, heart trembling. The room seems alive. Shadows breathe along the walls. He bows instinctively, palms together. The voice fades with the thunder's echo, leaving a calm he does not understand. The narrator speaks. Even in dreams, truth arrives when the mind stops reaching. Ina closes his eyes again, allowing the silence to hold him, like the earth after the rain, patient and forgiving. Morning bells echo through the mist, but Ina does not rise. The sound once summoned devotion. Now it feels distant, as though calling someone else. He lies still, counting the fading tones as they dissolve into the mountain air. His heart feels heavy, yet his breath remains soft, a small act of endurance. The narrator's voice flows gently. When sadness takes the seat of prayer, bow to it. It, too, is part of the temple. Ine turns toward the paper window where a single ray of light pierces through. Dust motes swirl like floating thoughts, drifting yet harmless. He sits slowly, hands resting on knees, the bell still echoing faintly within him, not as a summons, but as remembrance. A memory unfolds. Master Ryo stands beneath a drifting sky, teaching young Enna about clouds. Every cloud, no matter how heavy, must break, he had said, smiling with eyes bright as sunrise. The sky does not mourn its passing. Ine, younger then and curious, had asked, but why must it vanish? Ryo's reply came like laughter, so you may see the sun again. The scene returns to Enna's mind now, as he watches clouds roll across the valley. The narrator's tone softens, like the voice of memory itself. Even sorrow obeys the same law as clouds. It forms, it rains, and it clears. The wind lifts slightly, carrying away the faint scent of wet pine. Ina bows his head to the breeze, whispering, "Thank you, Master." 900 characters. Ina sweeps the courtyard alone. Each stroke of the broom whispers like rain. He watches fallen leaves gather, swirl, then scatter again, never staying where they fall. A single tear slips down his cheek. He doesn't wipe it away. The narrator murmurs, "Do not hide your sorrow." To see it clearly is to begin to free it. He pauses, leaning on the broom, gazing at the mountains beyond. Their stillness reminds him of his teacher's silence, not absence, but vastness. The wind rises softly, lifting a few leaves back into the air. Ina smiles faintly. Perhaps grief, too, must travel before it rests. As he rests by the garden pond, a small bird lands on Ina's open palm. It tilts its head, fearless. Time seems to stop. Ina's breath aligns with the bird's fluttering chest, two fragile rhythms sharing stillness. The narrator speaks. When the heart grows quiet enough, even the smallest life trusts it. He does not move, afraid to disturb the miracle. Then, gently, the bird leaps away, vanishing into the forest. Enna watches until it disappears. He realizes he has not thought of loss for those few moments, only presence. A smile breaks softly across his lips. Grief, he senses, can turn to gratitude when seen without grasping. At dusk, Ina kneels before the altar. His voice trembles as he chants the Sutra of Compassion. Words rise, fall, dissolve, not perfect but sincere. May all beings be free from suffering. The echo drifts through the hall, mingling with cicada song. His heart opens wider with each line, the sound of prayer filling what silence once owned. The narrator whispers, "When grief is spoken with kindness, it becomes a bridge." Ina lowers his head, tears falling freely now. He does not wipe them away. For the first time, they do not burn. They cleanse. He breathes deeply, feeling his teacher's presence not above him, but within. A gentle knock interrupts the afternoon hush. Ina opens the temple gate to find a small girl standing in the rain's aftermath, clutching a wooden bowl. Her robe is torn, her bare feet mud. She bows awkwardly, almost falling forward. "Excuse me," she says softly. "Is this where the kind monk lives?" Ina hesitates. The narrator murmurs, "Compassion often arrives wearing innocence." He nods and leads her inside, placing warm tea in her trembling hands. She smiles, wide and unguarded, a smile untouched by grief. For the first time in many days, Ina feels the air shift. Sorrow loosens its hold, replaced by a faint light of care. 900 characters. Later, in the courtyard, Akari mimics Ina's meditation posture. Her legs wobble, hands fidget. "I can't stop thinking," she says. Ina smiles gently. "Then listen to your thoughts as if they are birds. Don't catch them. Just watch them fly." She giggles, squeezing her eyes shut. The narrator observes, "Teaching another often reveals what we ourselves forgot." Watching her breathe, Ina notices his own breath again. Steady, patient, alive. The world feels lighter. Even the bell's tone carries warmth. For the first time since Rio's passing, he begins to teach not out of duty, but love. As dusk deepens, Akari tilts her head and asks, "Why do people die?" The question lands like a stone in still water. Ina exhales slowly. "Because everything that lives must also rest," he answers. "And when we understand that rest, we call it peace." The narrator continues. Wisdom does not erase pain. It teaches us to bow to it. Akari nods, thoughtful beyond her years. "Then Master Ryo is resting?" she asks. Ina smiles, eyes shining. "Yes, he's resting inside the wind." The temple bell rings and the sound seems to carry their words into the open sky. That night, as crickets hum, Akari finds Ine sweeping under the stars. "Do you miss him?" she asks. He nods. "Every breath reminds me." She takes his hand with small, determined fingers. "Then love him with every breath," she says simply. "No." Simply, the narrator smiles through the silence. The child becomes the teacher when truth is spoken without fear. Ina looks down at her, at the simple purity of kindness unburdened by logic. He feels the weight of grief dissolve, not in forgetting but in gratitude. "Thank you," he whispers. Together they sweep until the path shines with starlight, their movements slow and rhythmic like prayer. Together they light a paper lantern and carry it to the courtyard's edge. Akari whispers, "For your master." Ina nods, voice soft. "And for all who have taught us how to love." They release it, and the flame rises slowly into night, drifting higher until it becomes a single star. The narrator concludes, "Sorrow shared becomes light. In the act of giving, we are returned to wholeness." Ina and Akari watch until the lantern disappears into the dark. Silence follows. Not empty this time, but alive, filled with the quiet echo of compassion. Morning sun filters through cedar trees as Ina and Akari walk the narrow forest path. Cicadas sing from hidden branches. Dew sparkles on moss-covered stones. The air feels lighter now, touched by travel and renewal. The narrator's voice flows softly. "When we leave the place of our sorrow, we begin to see it as part of a larger landscape." Akari hums a tune she claims to have learned from the wind, while Ina listens, smiling. For the first time in months, his steps carry rhythm instead of weight. The sound of rushing water grows nearer. Somewhere ahead, the river waits, the teacher his master once spoke of. They reach the riverbank. The water glides like glass, mirroring clouds drifting across the sky. Akari kneels to touch the surface, laughing at the ripples. "It feels alive," she says. Ina nods. "It is. Everything moves, even what seems still." The narrator continues, "To touch water is to touch the nature of change." Akari cups a handful and lets it slip through her fingers. Then, "Sadness is water too?" she asks. Ina smiles faintly. "Yes, it flows when you let it." Her laughter joins the song of the stream, carrying his heart somewhere softer, somewhere free. Ina sits beside the river, gaze fixed on a leaf drifting downstream. A memory stirs Master Ryo's parable. A leaf does not resist the current, yet it still moves with grace. The voice had been calm, playful, timeless. The narrator reflects. "When we stop struggling, we discover the river carries us exactly where we belong." Ine picks up a fallen leaf and sets it upon the water. He watches it float away, heart lifting with it. Akari joins him, eyes bright. "Where will it go?" she asks. "Where the river teaches," he replies. As evening nears, they fold small paper boats from prayer sheets. Each carries a written wish. For peace, for their teacher, for all who grieve. The sky glows amber and violet. Together they release the boats onto the river, watching them drift toward the horizon. Akari whispers, "They look like stars in water." Ina's voice answers, gentle and sure, "And every star is someone's hope returned." The narrator concludes softly, "To offer light into the current is to trust the unseen sea." Night settles. Crickets hum, fireflies shimmer. Ina sits in stillness, eyes on the flowing current. The boats are long gone, yet their reflections linger in his heart. The narrator's voice is low, steady. Peace does not come from stopping the river. It comes from resting within its flow. Akari falls asleep beside him, head against his robe. Ina looks to the stars mirrored in the water and bows deeply, whispering, "Thank you, Master. I see now." The river answers only with movement, endless, gentle, alive. Night deepens. The river hums softly beneath a canopy of stars. Ina sits in meditation, his breath aligning with the water's rhythm. The air is cool, fragrant with pine. Inside, silence expands until it fills the space where grief once dwelled. The narrator's voice floats like wind. When the mind grows quiet, the self begins to vanish, and in its absence, truth appears. Ina feels the weight of his sorrow dissolve into the vastness around. His heart no longer clings, it listens. In the hush between breaths, he senses something stir, as though the world itself is exhaling peace. The sound of the river fades. A silver mist rises, thickening until the world softens into dream. From within the fog steps Master Ryo, not as memory, but as presence. His robes drift like smoke, his eyes clear as the sky itself. Ina's heart trembles. "Master," he whispers, "have I failed you?" Ryo smiles gently. "You cannot fail what never left." The narrator's tone is tender, echoing timeless wisdom. The teacher lives not in form, but in the awareness he awakens. Ina bows deeply, tears falling without sorrow. Only recognition. Ryo speaks, "You cling to my shadow and forget the sun. I am the wind through the bamboo, the light upon the river, the silence after the bell." His voice blends with the sound of moving water, both real and beyond form. Ina listens, eyes closed, the words entering like breath. "Let go of what you see," the voice continues, "and you will know what you are." The narrator whispers, "In letting go, nothing is lost, only illusion." The mist swirls gently, carrying Ryo's image into the river, merging teacher and nature as one. Ina opens his eyes and the mist begins to thin. The river resumes its song, but something within him has changed. He bows to the water, whispering, "I see now. You were never gone." The narrator's voice carries warmth. Awakening is not found in escaping pain, but in seeing through it. The grief that once bound him now feels like an old friend, teaching him to breathe more deeply. The stars shimmer on the surface of the current, countless reflections of one still light. Anna's smile returns, quiet and whole. The night ends slowly. Ina remains seated as the first birds call from the trees. He feels both the ache of farewell and the peace of understanding. "Thank you, Master," he murmurs, voice barely a breath. "You taught me to see the river within." The narrator concludes, "When the heart accepts impermanence, sadness becomes the doorway to truth." The sun breaks the horizon, light spilling across the water. Ina's shadow stretches behind him, no longer heavy, only a reminder of the journey walked in silence toward light. The morning mist lifts from the river as Ina and Akari begin their walk back to the monastery. Each step feels lighter, as if the path itself carries them. Birds dart between branches, their songs blending with the wind. Akari skips ahead, her laughter rippling through the forest like sunlight over water. The narrator speaks gently. When the heart has faced its shadow, the world no longer burdens it. Every sound becomes music, every breath a prayer. Ina watches her and smiles. The sorrow that once chained his heart now feels distant, transformed into gratitude. The mountain awaits, not as a place of memory, but of beginning. By midday, they reach the monastery gates. Villagers have gathered, drawn by word of Enna's quiet return. The temple bell rings, its tone no longer mournful but bright, echoing through the valley. Ina bows deeply before entering. The narrator reflects, when the one who grieved learns peace, all who meet him remember their own capacity to heal. Akari hides behind his robe, shy at the attention. Smiling, Ina gestures her forward. "This is my little teacher," he says. The crowd laughs softly, and even the wind seems to join in. Days pass. The temple fills again with sound, chants, laughter, the rustle of robes. Ina teaches in the courtyard where he once wept. Akari sits among the listeners, her gaze steady, calm beyond her years. Butterflies drift across the scene as if carrying prayers on fragile wings. The narrator's voice hums like a mantra. Suffering ends not by fleeing life, but by meeting it completely. Ina speaks softly. This too shall pass, and that is why it is beautiful. Around him, the villagers bow their heads, each finding reflection in his peace. As evening approaches, Akari chases butterflies along the garden path, laughter echoing against the temple walls. Ina watches her with quiet joy. The narrator's tone softens. Rebirth is not a distant promise. It happens each moment we let joy arise after sorrow. The bell tolls, deep and resonant. Ina closes his eyes, whispering the sutra his master once taught. May all hearts awaken to their true nature. In that moment, he feels Master Ryo's presence again. Not as ghost or dream, but as the very wind stirring the trees. As night descends, Ina lights a candle at the altar. The flame flickers, steady yet alive, mirroring his heart. The bell rings once more, its sound carrying far into the valley. The narrator concludes softly. The one who understands impermanence carries no sorrow too long, for he knows that every ending is a continuation unseen. Akari enters quietly, sits beside him, and together they close their eyes in silence. Outside, the wind moves through bamboo, whispering the lesson again. That peace is not found after the storm, but within it. Spring returns to the mountain. Cherry blossoms drift like soft snow across the temple roofs. Morning light spills through branches, filling the courtyard with quiet renewal. The narrator's voice flows gently. Time does not heal, it reveals. In seeing the change of all things, the heart learns to bow, not to cling. Ina walks the garden path once more, where he once wept alone. The air now hums with life, birdsong and laughter. He smiles as petals fall upon his robe, whispering, "Master, the world blooms again." Inside the hall, Ina sits before a circle of monks and villagers, his posture steady, breath calm. The same mat where Master Ryo once sat now rests beneath him. The narrator intones, "The student who learns to see clearly becomes the mirror of his teacher." Ina speaks softly, voice even. We suffer when we forget the nature of change, but when we remember, even sorrow becomes a friend guiding us home. Around him, faces glow in candlelight, eyes glistening with quiet recognition. A breeze enters, stirring incense smoke into spirals, like Ryo's laughter returning as wind. After the gathering, Akari enters carrying 2 cups of tea. She has grown taller, her eyes deeper with calm. "You're the teacher now," she says, smiling. Ina takes a cup, nodding. "And you," he replies, "are the reminder that all teachings must live in kindness." They sit beneath the veranda, watching petals float across the pond. The narrator speaks. Wisdom is not the end of the path. It is the grace to walk it gently, again and again. Silence lingers, sweet as spring air, needing no more words. As evening falls, the narrator's voice deepens, merging with the sound of the bell. Suffering is not your enemy. Ignorance is. When you see clearly, even pain becomes a teacher. Ine closes his eyes, repeating the Buddha's words silently. He feels no separation between himself, his teacher, or the world. The clouds, the wind, the sound of the bell, all move within one breath. The mountain glows in fading gold, and the air itself seems to bow. Night settles gently over the temple. The river murmurs below, moonlight weaving silver across its surface. Ina walks to the edge, gazing into the flowing water that once carried his grief. Now it reflects only peace. The narrator concludes, "In the quiet heart, joy and sorrow flow together, inseparable, eternal. The wise do not seek to hold one or escape the other. They simply watch and smile." Ina bows deeply, the reflection of the moon shimmering beside him. The frame fades to white, light beyond sorrow.